Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Now, today I wanted to talk about something that probably won't interest an awful lot of you, and that's games as a service. This whole argument and discussion that's been going on about this, that's kind of followed on from the loot boxes thing. And I've got a couple of opinions on it, some of which fall in line with stuff that I've talked about before, but some of which kind of step outside of that a little bit. Considering it's Friday and considering I wanted to just kind of wind down a little bit, and this was something that I keep seeing just pop up again and again and again on news feeds, on my subscription feed, on YouTube, on whatever else. I just wanted to kind of throw my 2 cents in because, you guys see me play games every day as part of the kind of work-life balance ethos that I want to try and bring to the channel so that you guys can see a bit more of me relaxing and get to know me a bit better, as well as just going through coaching topics or commentary topics or things that I'm trying to do to help and inform. Then it's something that stands out to me though that yes, I'm not a big fan of shitty business practices, especially in regards to things like loot boxes and in regards to things like monetization of game items or subscriptions that really aren't worth it. I'm not a big fan of those things. I've made that blatantly clear in others, especially in my videos about Paladins, where we saw it progressively get greedier and greedier and greedier over the time that I was actually paying attention to it, kind of every week on the channel. Like, we were seeing it change in in the case of that particular game. We were seeing it change from a game that was pretty standard, reasonable free-to-play model with some loot boxes, but the loot boxes weren't they weren't a problem, they weren't all that bad, to then a readdressing of the system, to then adding of a secondary cash shop that was even more expensive, to then moving into very much more a buy to win or pay to win kind of environment, just due to the amount of time it would take to unlock certain things, the amount of time it would take and money it would take to work on stuff. And it seemed like they saw the crappy business practices of EA with Star Wars Battlefront 2, and they went, oh, well, that would fit well in our game, and so that's what they went ahead and did. In which case, I've got no sympathy for them. They seem to lack awareness and be incredibly greedy and, quite frankly, a bit thick in terms of their development. So I wasn't a fan of that, and you guys have heard me talk about that a fair amount before. But when it comes to games as a service, I don't actually have an issue with the concept. And there are two games that stand out to me in particular that are essentially games as a service that still do exactly what I would want them to do in terms of the way that they manage their community and the way that they tackle their problems and their obstacles. And as a result, it's really, as a topic, games as a service are not a problem to me. It's how they manage to turn it into a service. Now, the two games that stand out in my mind, because games as a service seems to be, by broad strokes, this is going to be a game. It's going to be provided long term, kind of drip feed of new content and other things like that, that will also allow the developers to charge over time to get numerous purchases again and again and again, which may also mean that that those games become free to play and are solely dependent on the service charges part of their business model. And to me, that doesn't bother me at all. Two examples. One that I've talked about before, one I've talked about before, but a bit less. First off, Warframe. Whenever they release a new Warframe, yes, you can get it in the game, so it's not pay to win. Yes, you can gain access to it over time. Yes, it might take you a few hours worth of farming and things, but it's and a very casual player, someone who plays only a few evenings a week or something like that, might have more trouble getting it just due to the RNG innate in the game. But at the same time, for instance, I managed to sort myself out with two of the newer Warframes over a weekend ago. How? Well, I just sat down and no one was around. I had no other work to do. Uploads had gone really quickly to one extent or another, and so it gave me a little bit of extra time to actually relax over the weekend, and I was able to just jump on Warframe as no one else was around, and it was just the one thing that I kind of wanted to do, kind of needed to do, and I was able to just get those things. Why? Few hours, done. But again, every time there's a new piece of content released, be it a new quest, be it a new update that's more than just bug fixes and changes here and there, when it's a substantial content release of some description, then there is also a new thing to purchase. At least one new thing to purchase. There are usually new weapons, there's usually a new warframe, there are usually new cosmetics kicking around that are all put in for players to buy. In which case, the game itself is open and available for people to get into. There are ways through just playing the game that you can still gain access to everything. And yet, there is still openness enough for, if you want to support the title, if you enjoy the game enough, if there's one particular thing that you just really want, you can go and get it. You can buy it. And all of that money goes into supporting the team that created the game, the team that continue to develop the game, the team that are making sure that the game works well, and, most prominently, the team that are going to continue to create that new content for you that then not only allows them to charge again, but also allows them to develop the game further for the people that are already playing and who are enjoying it free to play. Now, the other game that I want to take a look at is Neverwinter, because Neverwinter, a game that I love so much but have got so far behind in, they have new content coming out so quickly. Like, I've been kind of intermittently jumping in and out of that game because it's a game that I enjoy. But also, there are times when I jump on an alt character and I end up playing through some stuff with Hannah or with someone else. And so as a result, it's like, yeah, okay, so I've now had to jump back onto a character that's earlier in the story, earlier in the modules and the campaigns and things. And so as a result, I'm not as far ahead on my main character as I could be. But guess what? They're pumping out so much new content so quickly. And every time, again, there are new things to buy. Be it new mounts, be it new cosmetics, be it new, in a couple of certain instances, there have been new races and things. With variants that you could buy and stuff like that. There are new other available items here and there, and then they do have their VIP subscription type services if people want to buy into them, or they've got their kind of loot boxy type systems if people want to buy into those too. And so they've managed to spread everything fairly thin in regards to they've got a very wide variety of different ways of earning money from their service. And yet, if you just want to play through the game, if you just want to enjoy the game, if you just want to play through all the way through the story by yourself because you love Neverwinter 1 or Neverwinter Nights 1, you love Neverwinter Nights 2, plus all of their various expansion packs, and you just really like the kind of advanced Dungeons and Dragons universe, and this is a fairly reasonable successor to those games in terms of the universe, maybe not the same dynamics in regards to how it plays, but considering that's the kind of way it goes, and that for the time being, the Neverwinter is very much more the kind of official D&D, like MMO, rather more so even I would argue than D&D Online. Considering that's the case, then it ultimately means that yeah, you can jump in, you can play all the way through, no one's going to stop you, you don't have to spend any money if you don't want to, and you can get to the end until the next update comes in, which will probably be very soon. In which case, though, you've got that access. But guess what? There are an awful lot of people that are willing to just throw $5 at the new loot box because there are a couple of things in there that they really like. They're willing to throw $10, $15 at something that's substantial that unlocks for every character on their account, like a mount or something like that. When you've got new character classes or new character options being opened up, then guess what? £8 or something for a new character slot is going to be something that they're willing to put their money into, because that's potentially maybe not a hugely departed experience from what they've already played through, but it's going to be something that might work better, something that they might enjoy more. The class mechanics may feel better to them, and they might just want it to try out. And so as a result, opening up a new character slot so they can jump on, create that new character, and then play through, you've given them an entire new game's worth experience in a different kind of role for £8, which, relatively speaking, is kind of cheap. And so, that's the way that it's worked. How have places that have done this, though, gone wrong? Where they've been reasonable, they've had fairly varied ways of people paying them for the upkeep of their game. The one that stands out to me is Champions Online, made by Cryptic Entertainment, the guys, or Cryptic Studios, the guys who also make Neverwinter. But Champions Online was like their first major game of like the generation that spawned Neverwinter. So it was Champions Online, Star Trek Online, and then Neverwinter. Star Trek and Neverwinter, they've kind of continued to be good and grow from strength to strength, where the issues with those certain games have been kind of worked down. Neverwinter, I felt, for what it wanted to do, did it very well from the beginning, and then they have just continued to expand on that. Star Trek rather, Online to begin with, was very it was very much for the fans. So there were parts of it that were just very, very complicated, and it didn't necessarily take into account the fact that there were a lot of people who were coming into the game as fans of the new J.J. Abrams films, who are potentially much younger, not as aware of so much of the series and some of the references and some of the complexity that was in the game. And so as a result, they redid some of those systems to make them more accessible, to make them more fluid, and as a result, the game worked out to go from kind of being fairly reasonable to being pretty strong. Champions Online, though, kind of went the other way round, where you had a lot of people engaging with the game to begin with, because it was one of the only really successful and kind of open superhero MMOs at the time, and to be fair, it still kind of is. And then with its only competition really being DCUO, but that was very, very World of Warcraft-esque in regards to the way it managed its players and the way that it kind of promoted you all the way through until you hit the gear grind, and then the gear grind was all there was, and that was the point that I kind of stopped playing. But then with Champions Online, you had this freeform character system, you had these really great kind of set pieces, very different environments, pretty interesting but kind of also quite campy storylines that fit with the superhero genre so well. They had systems like the Nemesis system before it was cool, and it worked out quite well. But then there were a few changes which was where you saw it start going free to play. And it wasn't just the initial free to play thing was fine. It didn't cause a problem at all. It's when, okay, well, you've got freeform characters that you can either buy or you can unlock or you can do whatever. But if you're free to play, then you're not going to get those straight off the bat. You're going to have to invest in the game a little bit. And to begin with, that wasn't too expensive. That was still fine. And so it was like, yeah, so that's what you've got, but then the free form is for the people that are still paying for them, which, that's fine. That's just a differentiation between a free-to-play character slot and a normal character slot. We see it, and much less fairly, in a lot of other games. One that springs to mind, Star Wars: The Old Republic, where it's still good without a subscription, but the limits imposed on free-to-play or even preferred status characters and players is a bit more heavy-handed than I would say is reasonable. But then things progressed and they started changing other systems as well within Champions, including the crafting system, and that was and the stats system as well, actually, which is where the problem started to develop, because it was those changes to the core game that then invalidated or reduced the experience of long-time players who had contributed for a very long time in terms of money, who then unfortunately departed from the game. They left the game died out, and that was why that model then got worse, and it became Now you have to spend, I think it's about $40 to $50 on a new free to play, not new free to play, new free form character slot to play through the game with, and that's very expensive just to be able to create a character with the full range of skills and things like that. Considering that that's all it gives you the one character slot to then do that with. It doesn't give you anything else beyond that in terms of subscription benefits or any of the other things as well. That's a separate thing from at least the last time I checked it was. So what can we take away from this? First off, games as a service, not too bad as long as the monetization methods involved are not predatory. They are there as a means of skipping the grind. They are there as a means of convenience. They are there as a means of vanity and cosmetics. They are not there as a means of progression. They are not there as a means of kind of just draining your players' wallets dry. In which case, though, then where does this go wrong? When you damage the game itself. Whilst it's still worth playing, people will be willing to give you money. When it's not worth playing anymore, people will stop giving you money. Pretty straightforward. In which case, make a quality game, do it in a way that allows you, sure, to put out new content at a price. But, again, locking that content away entirely behind a paywall is not a good thing. Make it a skip the grind or a convenience thing or just something that's shiny that people would want. Something that's novel rather than trying to strong arm them for it. You know, as I've said before, when you've got no choice in buying something, you resent having to buy it. When you've got a lot too much choice in buying something, when you've got 36 different options, you get kind of paralyzed by it and you aren't as satisfied with your purchase after you've got it because there is always the what if. If you've only got 2 or 3 different options presented to you at any one time, then you are going to be firstly more inclined to actually buy it in the first place because there'll be no resentment. And secondly, you're going to be far more inclined to be happy with your purchase after you have purchased it because you knew what you were getting when you got it, and then afterwards you've only got 2 what ifs instead of 50. And as a result, you're happy with it. These are simple marketing and kind of sales principles. They aren't difficult to understand, and they work very, very well because they match up with the way that people think. As has been said before, they are hiring psychologists. Activision and others, Ubisoft, EA, they are all hiring psychologists to get you to buy more. To try and influence you and twist you into giving them more money quicker. Here's the problem with that. Gamers aren't thick. In fact, being a gamer is probably something that has allowed you to not only become more intelligent and more capable in the way that you address problems, including problems that may very well be financial in kind of origin. But also, it's a case of they are going to immerse themselves in these games where, for instance, we saw Destiny 2 sapping XP from players during certain events and doing certain things. And then they said, oh, yeah, it's a bug, we'll fix it. It's not supposed to look like that. It's not supposed to be doing that. We'll sort it out. Whether that was the case or not, the only reason that was found was because people who are immersing themselves in these experiences learn them inside and out, including at times jumping into the code to test things and find stuff that's there. And whilst there's a different argument about data mining and whether it's, throwing out those spoilers is worth it compared to just waiting for it to be a thing or whatever else, the one thing that they do that is very good is when you do catch a company being crappy red-handed and you've got the evidence from their own game files to support your claims. That's something that I can very much respect from those that will jump in and data mine stuff. But again, it's not an entirely bad thing, but at the same time it needs to be done in the right way, and it needs to be done in the right way that actually adds up with players and their purchasing habits and what they want from those things. Not in the case of just giving more RNG, or giving more in the way of just, well, you need to buy this to get into the next part because we're locking everything away behind paywalls now, or the inconsiderate element of it, where, for instance, with the Dragon Age Inquisition um, season pass, if you purchased it for Xbox 360 because that was the console you had and it was released on that console, so why wouldn't you have everything? They only actually released, I think it was 2 or 3 of the DLCs for that game, in spite of the fact that you had paid the full price for the season pass. You missed out on the 1 or 2 DLCs afterwards as well, and that was just shitty. If they were going to do that and they were going to withdraw support for that system anyway, then why did they even release it? But again, that's just another in the long list of sins the EA is guilty of, especially around monetization of games and games as a service. So there is a right way to do it. There is a successful way to do it. There is a way that will sustain a game, build a community, and work well, as long as the game is solid and worth playing by itself. In which case, though, for a lot of the games that we're seeing being peddled as games as a service and being created in that vein, just to sap the money from people, leveraging things like shiny graphics or big franchises like Star Wars, then quite frankly, that's where things need to change. Obviously, we've now got various governments around the world taking it upon themselves to look into loot boxes and tackle those with legislation and try and push the game industry to continue to self-moderate in a way that they don't need to be involved, but if they have to be involved, then they will. But otherwise, it's going to be interesting to see how this all progresses, because the other thing that stands out to me is that games as a service growing in terms of the AAA scene is the cause the indie scene has grown so quickly and so well. I play a fair number of indie games or smaller games on this channel. Heat Signature stands out as one that I've been playing more recently. And the thing that stands out is that game wouldn't be as fun as it is. It probably wouldn't be as well developed. It probably wouldn't have got the money that it's gotten. It probably wouldn't have been bought to the same extent, or anything like that. Even indie games that are on the smaller side, that are still 3D, which or more expansive things like, I don't know, kickstarted games like Ark, or other games like those that have been entirely crowdfunded. Like, they wouldn't have grown. There wouldn't be as much of an audience for those, or as much of kind of market for those games, if the games as a service guys who are now investing so heavily in that idea had actually just kept making quality single player games that weren't all PvP focused, like murder fests and whatever else. Then thinking about it in terms of, say, I don't know, The Witcher 3 and the Witcher series that has done very well and gained an awful lot of acclaim for the games that they have put forward, where it is a single player game. It's AAA, but it's come from a relatively small place that has then grown as a result of the influence of those games rather than the other way around. And that shift, that growth, that development, the only reason that there's a substantial market for that is because the big guys who used to dominate the market with those kind of games, they're no longer competing in that area anymore, and they're all trying to fight and argue and monopolize the same space, which is this games as a service, where we'll give you a game but only if you pay out the arse for it, which again can be done in a way that's really successful. But again, it's the smaller studios. Cryptic's been passed around from time and time again, and it's never been a particularly large or vast studio, but it's moved from different publisher to different publisher to different publisher, and as a result, they're still maintained as a smaller studio within a larger structure that's then allowed them to do that thing. Digital Extremes from Warframe, relatively speaking, smaller studio, less well known, done some bits here and there, including the spiritual successor and thematic successor to Warframe with Dark Sector before. You know, they've done all of those things, and yet now, thanks to them finally being able to realize the type of game they wanted to make at the quality level that they wanted to make with the community that they wanted to make, you know, they've been able to grow and develop and be more successful and even give back to fans with things like their Tenogen stuff, where people can get involved and earn money from kind of putting their themselves out for the community, doing work on behalf of them, so that people will have things that are interesting and content to develop and buy. So it's all about management. It's all about how it's handled, and the smaller guys at the moment are the ones that are winning on this, because they are looking at quality, they are looking at what they want to do, they are looking at things that people can buy into, and that they can give quality for those people buying into, rather than those huge studios that have bought up, you know, so many other successful places, and then in the case of some of them, shut them down for no real substantial or decent reason. And as a result, you know, we're seeing them fighting a losing battle, simply because they're not on the same side as the people that they're creating these things for anymore. And they're not paying attention to what would actually work. You know, can you imagine what if Anthem, the next big EA BioWare game as a service kind of title, what would happen if they just went, yep, everything's accessible within the game, nothing is, you know, it's completely free to play, we're not going to charge you for it, but the thing that we're going to do is we're going to put this stuff in, it's going to be cosmetic, it's going to be skipping, it's going to be convenience, and we're not going to be shitty about it, we're not going to do any of that, and we're going to build it out this way. What if they took that same model from Warframe and put it straight into Anthem and went, there you go, this is how we're going to do it? They would earn money. They would earn a lot of money with everything that they put in. They have a large studio, they have a lot of money already, they would be able to go and do so much more with that, so much faster. And those people who are willing to buy would have more stuff to buy faster, and so as a result you would earn more at a higher rate. You don't need to brutalize people or twist their arm to get them to give you money. You need to give them something that's worth buying. Anyway, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. You know, how many of you guys have continued to play WoW even though it's not worth the money anymore? Or it hasn't been worth the money for a long time. You know, and I realise that in that particular example, that's more just me having a dig at WoW, to be fair. But I realise that there are certain ways that I believe you can pay for your subscription through in-game time played and gold. Could be wrong about that. I've not looked at World of Warcraft since Wrath of the Lich King, so that's again just me having a poke. But it's a case of, you know, that you still had to pay an awful lot in terms of subscriptions, in terms of expansions and whatever else, plus potentially very expensive microtransactions in that game. You know, who's still playing that? What do you think about games as a service generally? I would love to hear your thoughts. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the video later. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the video later. Take care.